Welcome to the Ringer WNBA show. I'm Seerat Sohi, and I am joined today by Emma Baccellieri of Sports Illustrated. Very excited to have Emma on. I've been a longtime fan of her work. She's one of the best featured writers in sports and women's sports. Just go read her work if you want to understand the WNBA better. I certainly have been going down the archives. Emma, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, that is quite the intro. Thank you. But yeah, stoked to be here.
Stoked to have you. Today, what we're going to do is go through a list of what we've deemed to be the 12 most interesting characters in the WNBA in the lead up to the regular season. The regular season starts on Friday. I'm going to offer a few disclaimers first. We kept a few people off the list. We picked 12 because we wanted to make it like a WNBA roster and wanted to go through the difficulties. Like really wanted to put ourselves in the emotions of these coaches and GMs that have to make these really difficult cuts right now. We had to make some difficult cuts as well. We also cut some players who are interesting, but that we have talked about on the podcast a little too much. So that is just me saying, please don't yell at me. It really hurts my feelings and I'm very, very sensitive. Emma, do you want to get started or should I?
You can get on into it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I will, in the spirit of a large part of what today's podcast is going to be about, I'm going to start with Angel Reese, who has come into this season exceptionally hungry and just feels like completely all business. In her return to LSU, I loved her suit. I love what she wore, but it like the gray pinstripes, the skirt, the heels with the socks. But that's what it told me. It told me she's just all business this year. She actually hit a reporter who tried to bait her into a Caitlin Clark question with the next question. I'm not sure if you caught this. Did you see this?
I have read the quote. I didn't actually see her deliver it.
I loved it. She just went with it. But really just on the court, I think it's going to be a really exciting season for Angel and the Chicago Sky. So far, we have seen them kind of run this new offense where she is out in the perimeter. She reminds me of this cross between Alyssa Thomas and Draymond Green, where I actually really like the Alyssa Thomas comparison because it reminds me a little bit of the Connecticut Sun, the way that they had to find ways to create space between Thomas, who is a non-shooter, and Bree Jones, who is a non-shooter who thrives in the post. And that's kind of the Camila Cardoso in this metaphor. But she has really just used her playmaking to unlock new possibilities for this offense. And if you hear her tell it, she will tell you that she has always been this player, right? Like she has been able to do this in high school. She's been able to do this in Maryland. Then she went to LSU where she had a little bit more of a low post presence. But I went back and watched the LSU title game in 2023 when she was a junior, which by the way, we don't talk about the basketball stuff with that season enough at all. Like it just got completely, everything got completely clouded by the hand wave and everything that happened after that and the discourse. That was a historic dominant season that she had. She was the first player since her new assistant coach, Courtney to have 23 and 15 in college basketball as a junior. And then she comes into that game. Iowa wants to put her in the perimeter. What does she do? She just gets 5 assists in that game. She comes out, doing what we're seeing her do right now. She's pushing the ball off rebounds, which just seems like just such an obvious move for the coaching staff to decide to emphasize that, given that she is the best rebounder in the WNBA and she can handle the ball. Her ball handling looks a little bit better this year too. To just have her run transition. She's doing a really good job of finding Camila Cardoso too. And post players can be really difficult to find, but she is just been really, really exciting in this preseason in a way that makes me psyched for the Chicago Sky season. Even though I did not love the Errol Atkins trade when it happened, I'm ready to watch this team with vets and shooters surrounded by Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this all comes together with Tyler Marsh, who obviously he was under Becky Hammon for so long. I think seeing what he's put on the floor in this little bit of the preseason that we've been able to watch so far, it's I think this is going to be not just a more fun team, a faster team, but a much more cohesive team, it seems like, compared to last year watching that offense just so often look lost, frankly. And I think, part of that, obviously, bringing in someone like Courtney Vandersloot, and which another thing I'm excited to watch there is I wasn't sure if Haley Van Lith was actually going to make a roster, but this was a perfect fit for her. And for her to get to be there to team up with Angel again and to learn from someone like Sloot, I think is so fun, is going to be another good storyline here. But yeah, having a true classic point guard like that who can kind of help facilitate things, like being able to run more of it through what you're doing in the post with Reese and Cardoso. Like it just, I actually think this team is going to be a lot more fun than I would have guessed when the offseason started. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I fear I'm a little high on them. Like I fear I'm thinking 5th seed, 6th seed. Like I'm really talking myself into some things with this team. And I think actually Haley is a part of it because I think she's going to be able to contribute. She's been really, really fun in what we've seen from her in the preseason. She made the final cuts. It always kind of sounded like she would, like, you know, it felt like her and Maddie Westbald were always going to be the two there. But I just love, like I've talked about her self-awareness before, but I just loved what I heard from her in her introductory press conference where she was talking about all the things that she needs to do better defensively and also how she can do them as well. So if anybody like wants to go listen to that, it'll give you a sense of what has made her such a fantastic player despite, you know, all the height disadvantages and things like that. She just has such a clarity about the type of player that she needs to become to stick in the league. And, you know, she's going to get it sometimes. You know, we saw that in the preseason. Napheesa had him and gave it to her. But I also thought that was like, there was one where she picked Napheesa up full court. And that's like just straight out of the college playbook. And that's also her trying to show some hustle. And I think in time, there will be a know your personnel catch up that comes where it's like, hey, T's not the one to do that to. Maybe just pick her up half court. You know what I mean? But yeah, they're really, really fun. To your point, I really love what Tyler Marsh has done so far too. It just feels like he's laying down this foundation. He seems like, despite this being his first training camp, very prepared, very calm. Like they just knew what they wanted to do. It seems like they're doing a good job so far. It's going to take time of just building relationships with the players. We have Courtney Paris coming on the podcast after this. She'll be the second segment. So like she'll be able to speak to some of that more. But yeah, just really awesome so far. Like just feeling super positive. Even Ariel Atkins, like her, you know, playmaking, her getting her hands on balls, things like that. It's just been it's been fun.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're a little higher on them than I am, but I think
where are you
definitely. I think they can make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go 5th or 6th seed, but I think they're going to be in contention for a spot the whole way through.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, by the way, 5th seed would be like my upper limit ceiling. Like that's Camilla making a huge jump. That's Angel continuing to make a huge jump. And, you know, everybody staying healthy, Sue having a good season, Haley having like everything going well. Would be, you know, where I see them as a potential 5th seed. But to your point, it's probably going to be more so like closer to the bottom end of the playoffs, which is still fine. I mean, that's what this team wants, right? Like they are hungry to make the postseason. Camila Cardoso, Angel Reese has said multiple times through the course of the postseason, she's hungry to make the postseason. She's pissed she didn't make the postseason last year. So that's kind of like the stakes that they have set for themselves. And I think that they are well positioned to go get them. Emma, who's your first player?
I have Napheesa Collier. I had so much fun watching her over the course of last year. You know, I think you've seen over the last few years the way that she's developed her game in like a very quiet, steady way. It just felt like every single season has been like a building block on top of each other. And then to see her have the season she did last year, where it was kind of just like, it seemed like finally getting the attention that I think she deserves, as like, this is legitimately one of the best players in the league. This is someone who can be a perennial MVP candidate. This is like a tremendous defender who's really, really versatile, can guard everyone from 1 to 5, who has, you know, polished her offensive game a lot more. And, you know, the way that the links run so much through her, really like seeing that go all the way down to, you know, the finals matchup that could have gone either way down to the very last seconds of the very last game. I don't know. I think she's just an interesting player to watch on the floor, where she's someone who I think makes me a smarter basketball fan and a smarter writer, because she does so many subtle little things that you have to really be clued in on, like watching her away from the ball, watching the way that she anticipates, watching her footwork. She's fun to watch in that sense, where it's not necessarily flashy, but she is such a good, smart player. And I think in terms of what makes her interesting this year, you've just seen what she did with Unrivaled, where she's like just wiped the floor with everyone, just to, you know, obviously literally built the league and then used it as this tremendous showcase for what she can do. And I think like the Lynx are also, I feel like, almost not getting enough buzz in this preseason.
Like in perpetuity, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, I think And I think I would go with the Liberty to repeat if I'm making my finals pick right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Lynx. I'm fully expecting them to make another deep run. I never count out Cheryl Reeve. And I think, this is going to be a team that's in there right to the end. And that's so much of that is built around Fee.
Another team I'm high on, dare I say I have training camp brain right now where I'm high on everybody. But I mean, honestly, you talk about Unrivaled, just the fact of her creating this league, I think is what makes her one of the most fascinating players in the league this season, especially as CBA negotiations get going. She is the vice president of the Players Union while also being a founder of a league. That's like, that's not even ABA, NBA stuff. You can't compare it to anything because when has a player that is one of the best players in the league that could potentially be in the finals also had an ownership stake in a different league that has kind of been a thorn in the side of the WNBA that has been, there is synergy between the two leagues. I think the two leagues need each other, but we've also seen multiple times throughout the course of free agency, through the draft, Unrivaled stealing headlines from the WNBA, kind of making the W look bad for its pay scale and for its practice facilities and things like that. You think about what the things that Alyssa Thomas, who went from the Connecticut Sun to the Phoenix Mercury, said when she was at Unrivaled. So I'm really glad we're talking about her as an interesting player because we do not talk about her as an interesting player enough because she doesn't necessarily fit into the boxes that like typically fascinate us, whether it's the Sports Center stuff. Like you said, you have to be keyed in to understand what makes her great. But she's also not one to get riled up for no reason at all. And I remember talking to her about this where she was just like, look, like I'm not going to just show my emotions. That's actually on some level, it's a strategy to not show my emotions. It allows my opponent to get riled up and I get to be the one that's even keeled. And you think about how Minnesota played last year, especially with, the comebacks that they were able to make, the amount of times that they went into the second half down and then just came out with a strategy. Like that is absolutely an advantage. And I sue me, I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting in a world where like everybody else is kind of the opposite. Like the fact that we look at athletes and say you have to like have this fuel and this fire that you can always see burning all the time and to be constantly tapping into that in order to be great, just to have this player who isn't necessarily like, falling into that cliche. It's just, I enjoy it. I enjoy it as a writer. I imagine you enjoy it as a writer too. But it also, like, even when you look at this season, right? Like and by the way, I have to say, you wrote a great feature about Napheesa, for SI, just a couple weeks ago as well. You got to plug that yourself, Emma. Come on, man. But really, it was really good. And I loved how they talked about, like obviously the referee controversy last year, but now, kind of connecting the referee controversy to a league-wide problem. Speaks to me to the way that Napheesa doesn't take things personally, can kind of understand that it wasn't actually some grand conspiracy against the Lynx, despite what Cathy Engelbert's dress would tell you, that it was like a reffing mistake. And it's a kind of reffing mistake that they've gone through before that, the league has to deal with. And it's just not like it's going to fuel her. It's going to be a moment that is going to always live in her mind, but it's not going to be top of mind. I feel like the team is going to be top of mind, and the team so far in preseason looks pretty good as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's just a very cerebral person and player who really thinks about systems, which I think like you have to be the kind of person who looks at the landscape and says there's room for a domestic winter league that could offer these things, to be interested in being on the player executive committee to begin with, and to like look at something like the refereeing in the finals and see like, yes, like obvious frustration and pain and like just being pissed that a game ended that way and that you feel like you put your team in a situation where that could affect the outcome. But also just like when we're talking about resources, when we're talking about things that the W doesn't have compared to more established leagues, like offsite replay for reviews and challenges, which feels like kind of a no-brainer. Like this is all part and parcel of when you're talking about how does the league grow? What does the league need to grow? yeah, I mean, she's an interesting person to talk to. She's one of my favorite players to sit down with. Um, and yeah, I think all of that. And I think also, like, not to be too reductive about it, I feel like she has such a mind for systems, and you can see that in her game too. Like, she just comes across as that, like, thoughtful and considered in like everything she does.
No, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. Like, in the first time you said that she's, she has a mind for systems, I think that kind of just, yeah, that's the Napheesa Collier experience completely, whether it's on or off the court. Like, I think that's, again, like when you think about systems, that's why you're not going to take things personally. And it's also going to allow you to take advantage of those systems to kind of be able to infiltrate them, whether it's on the court or off the court. I was going to go next, but I feel like there's just a natural segue here to talk about one of your next most interesting characters, which is Cathy Engelbert.
Yes, I was maybe going to save her for last, but I feel like any discussion of the W this year, obviously you're talking about where the league is at right now, which is just a really fascinating place where you have these CBA negotiations going on, which I think are expected to really meaningfully reshape I don't think it's too bold to say the structure of the league. Like, we could be talking about a really different system of free agency, of pay, of the resources and investments that we're seeing teams make in players. Like, that can all be coming at the end of this year. You have, like, things are really going to change after this year in terms of like, everyone basically is going to be a free agent. We're going to see this massive reshuffling because players know this is coming and they don't want to lock themselves in and potentially miss out on things. And so the question of how you steer the league through this pretty explosive growth, navigate being in the public eye in a way that the league had never been before last year, walk that line, negotiate this CBA, it's, I think, tough for any commissioner. I think certainly we've seen our fair share of missteps and like clear areas for concern and criticism from players and from other stakeholders. Like, we've seen our fair share of those last year. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't think it's too bold to say, like, this is potentially the most pivotal year in the history of the WNBA. This is where all of the growth from last year is going to be put into something. We have the new media deal. Now we'll have this new CBA, and like, how the commissioner navigates that is going to shape everything.
Yeah, it's going to be critical. Look, I've criticized Cathy in the past. I'm not jealous of the job that she has to do in the next year. And you've seen the league make some improvements. I do think that overall their PR has been cleaner. I don't think that you're going to see her saying on CNBC that actually it's great to profit off of a race war at the expense of our players. And to that point, like, there's a new dedicated task force to enhancing player safety, combating online hate, those things probably long overdue, but I am glad that they are happening. And it just feels like kind of the story of her tenure has been trying to figure out how to make the league grow, and now how to deal with like what you termed as this explosive growth. And I just think that it's going to be really interesting to see how she navigates it. I thought it was funny that she got booed at the draft. That kind of was like one of those moments where it's like, okay, so Cathy's getting some criticism, but does that mean the league has made it? Our commissioners are getting booed now? Like, there's like kind of like a
right.
There's
like
turning point.
It's
a major turning point. Yeah. But I do see her sort of. We have seen her just kind of in the zeitgeist over the course of the last year, sort of turn into a villain in a way. And I don't think that was like necessarily the case with her before. Maybe it was within the WNBA fandom. Obviously as a newer person, like, you would have to correct me on that if I'm wrong. But it feels like things have just hit a new degree for Cathy. And I don't know. It's just going to be one of those things where like we find out if she's made for it or not. And right now, like, there's evidence for both.
I mean, I also think broadly, like, fans of almost every league,
everyone hates the commissioner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the spectrum operates within like a very small window of like outright hatred to like mild distaste.
Yeah, it's like ban Donald Sterling. Everyone loves you for a few years, and then you start trying all these gimmicks, and it's gone. Yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. Like, the best you can ask for is Gary Bettman, where you're around forever, but also like no one actually likes you. And so
they're not supposed to. They're not
right, exactly.
To. Like, a well-liked commissioner is probably a bad commissioner.
Yes. And I think the fact that you have enough fans who are engaged enough and have thoughts about the trajectory of the league and are seeing opportunities for the commissioner to actually be doing things, even something as small as like her getting booed, the fact that you have fans at the draft, like that wasn't a given for a really long time.
Mhm.
The fact that you have like public touch points where people are thinking about it, like broadly, I think it's a sign of progress and of a good thing
Mhm.
for the league to be in a place where like that's even possible. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously lots of clear, actual technical things now that we're going to see. How does she shape the league moving
Yeah.
forward? I think a lot of the things she's done so far, like the capital investment campaign she led a couple years ago, that was
Mhm.
an important step. Just that mindset of investment, even if it didn't come through always in a way where players could feel it right away. That's meaningful. Like staffing up marketing and PR, like you mentioned, those are good things. Like there are lots of small behind the scenes things that are like not necessarily obvious
Mhm.
to fans and even to players all the time, but they had to be done because the league was so far behind in so many ways. And so I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
think she's just in an interesting spot. Like you said, I don't envy her either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's also worth noting that still, the WNBA is an understaffed entity as well. Like, so, and it, like, I think a lot of people's consternation with a lot of different things will still kind of come down to, we talk about it with the players, like non-competitive pay and not enough roles, you know? So, like, the league itself, like, the structure of the league needs a pay raise and expansion in and of itself.